Yo! Welcome everybody to another Sledgehammer review. I'm your host, Dr. Sledgehammer, and today I want to review one of the major blockbusters from the 90s, Dungeon Keeper. It's a real-time strategy game in which you micromanage a dungeon. This dungeon conquers land and rids villages of such useless things like happiness, forgiveness, peace of mind, among other things.
Missile, light and airy. Missile is a haven for those who love the peaceful countryside. The sort of people who won't like miles of sulphurous, stinking wasteland. And the screams of the damned, of course.
Now you cannot talk about the Dungeon Keeper series without talking about Peter Molyneux, who is known for other blockbusters such as the Fable series or Black and White. He used to be a creative genius back in the day. Now he is known for other things. Now, Dungeon Keeper has two sequels. One is pretty good, I'll review it in the future if demand is there. The other one is a crappy mobile game that has the sole purpose of allowing children to partake in microtransactions to spend their parents' hard-earned money. You can find the game on GOG.com for a rather fair price. After what recently happened with Cyberpunk 2077, CD Projekt Red desperately needs your money right now. In addition to that game, I strongly recommend you download the community patch Keeper FX, as it improves the game's graphics, fixes some bugs, and adds a lot of fan content that deeply enriches your gaming experience. The game starts with you looking out a window onto what seems to be an entire country and its villages. You notice that something is quiet, not right.
Cozyton, a hideous sham of a town in which the prosperous citizens have no gripes or moans. Sadly, even the children are happy and secure. This is because they aren't punished for non-existent crimes.
Yeah, that's it. You're looking at villages filled with hippies, so it's up to you to slowly fix and improve the land you see in front of you. You have to save these naive peasants from their own stupidity. You start each level with a dungeon heart and a couple of imps. Your dungeon heart gets destroyed, you lose the match. In order to win, you either have to destroy the dungeon heart of an enemy keeper or kill the lord of the land.
Beware, the lord of the land approaches.
We shall not tolerate your evil presence any longer.
Alright, drums up.
Ready, guys?
Let's do this. Leroy Dragons!
It's really as simple as that. Kill or be killed. If you win, you get to hear what fate has befallen these peace-loving hippies that you slaughtered in your tunnels.
Withers Dread. This place now has a proper name because of what you did here. There is a healthy disrespect for life, and you'll be amused to hear that cannibalism has gained a strong foothold amongst the ragged inhabitants.
The first thing I like to do when I start a match is I want to quickly expand my dungeon so I have enough space for all of my rooms. And I also want to get my hands on the portal as soon as possible. In each level, the portal only gives me a predetermined number of creatures. These creatures require certain rooms in order to be summoned. In order to get the rooms, you need gold. Gold is the main currency in the game. You get it by digging into gold veins, just as you see over here. Gold is also used as mana when you want to cast spells. As your creatures come through the portal, you need to build them a lair. Look at them beetles living in a pile of poo-poo. Over here we have a hatchery in which your creatures eat raw chicken with feathers and everything. Here is the most important room in the entire game, the gym. Oh, I miss you so much. Here we have a library in which your warlocks and dragons are currently researching new rooms and spells for you to use. Over here we have a workshop. Your biodemons and trolls are currently working overtime to manufacture useful traps and doors for you to use in your dungeon. Fallen creatures on the battlefield can be dragged to one of your cutting-edge graveyards. Here they may come back as vampires. Once they train in the gym, they become some of the most powerful creatures in the entire game. I think around level 3 they gain immortality. Over here we have our prison facilities for knocked out enemies, and here we have our torture chambers. If you look over here, you see some of my mistresses are currently enjoying a good spanking. By the way, they did come here on their own free will. I bet they're into all kinda kinky shit. I bet they're also into feet. Over here we have the temple in which your creatures come to cleanse their souls. You can also sacrifice certain creatures in the pool to gain benefits. And here we can scavenge enemy creatures and make them join the winning team. Dungeon Keeper is a god game and a strategy game. Each creature has its own free will and will act on its own unless told otherwise. The Imp, for example, is a special kind of minion you have. Imps are the units for almost every job you have. They break walls, they claim spots, they fortify walls, they collect gold, they drag future sex slaves to their cell, they drag carcasses to the graveyard, and they smoke weed. There is so much stuff an imp needs to do, and they will prioritize their task according to what they see as more important. One thing that imps like to prioritize for some reason is exploring new territories. This is where these little fuckers get annoying. You accidentally break one piece of wall that you shouldn't have, and they will start marching in, trying to claim spots in enemy territory. They then get in trouble with your enemies and lure them to your dungeon heart, and now you're in deep shit. Now you could use one of your manufactured doors to seal off areas from your minions, however most of the time you do not have them ready yet. While imps are a handful of trouble, other creatures might also test your patience. Some of the stronger creatures in game might require a little convincing to prevent them from becoming a bunch of soy boys who hide in the library or workshop all day. For example, dragons are some of the strongest creatures in a battle. They are true tanks and cause massive AoE damage to your enemies. Leave them be and they will immediately seek the next library. If they finish research, they will follow their secondary objective, which is working out in the gym. In contrast, warlocks are the second species that likes to research. If they finish research, they will just go to sleep. Move, you wannabe Dumbledore pricks! What you have to do is grab these pussies by the beard and drag their lazy asses into the gym manually, where they will get a proper education. One more thing I found really annoying is that some creatures have an ongoing feud. Vampires and warlocks, as well as skeletons and bile demons, fight on sight, so you better make sure they sleep in different layers. The AI-based gameplay is kinda nice, as you have lots going on in your dungeon and you don't always have the time to tell each one of your creatures what chores to do. You're more like a micromanager. You're trying to build a self-sustaining system that you barely have to interfere in. You just tell your imps where to dig, make your rooms, set your traps, build your doors, and you have to tell your creatures when to train, and voila, there is your system. In order to attack your enemies, you have to either wait until they get close to your minions so they auto-attack, or you have to drag your creatures manually to your enemies, which can get quite tricky as you can only hold 8 units simultaneously and you have to drop them one by one. In addition, you can only drop your creatures from spots that have already been claimed by your imps, so if your enemy imps prevent your imps from getting closer to their dungeon, you will have tough luck starting a fight, as your creatures will always wander back to their own dungeon once they eliminate the threat. What happens then is your imps will come back out of their holes to try and claim your enemy's spots again, only to get swarmed by an insane number of your enemy's imps who will rapidly start killing off all of your imps. And your enemy usually spares no expenses when it comes to imps. In some maps I feel like I destroyed almost 50 of them and they still keep coming. Mind you, each time you buy an additional imp, it gets more and more expensive. So I'm always wondering how the enemy keeper does it. I mean, judging by the numbers, I'd say that they pay up to 5,000 gold for the last imp that they buy, which is an insane amount of gold that will drag any normal player. Now you're probably asking yourself, how do I reach my enemy's dungeon heart if I cannot claim the necessary spots? Well, here's the deal. You put up a flag that you get by casting a spell called Call to Arms. Then you drag your creatures to that flag. Creatures nearby will pivot towards the flag. What you do then is you keep moving the flag a few spots ahead until you reach the dungeon heart, massacring everything in your path. Your enemy will start crying daddy, but daddy is already mad. Daddy already pulled the belt and is ready to dish out a good spanking. Alternatively, you could always possess one of your minions by casting a spell. You are now playing a 3D shooter in which you control the selected creature. The advantage here is that you can actually maneuver your creature and you can try to evade some of your enemy's attacks. In early levels I had lots of success with this method. I would go in, kill a few of them, thin out their numbers, get out, and come back with the cavalry. Is this the best way to do combat? Probably not, but it is a unique way nonetheless. and once you get used to it, you'll adapt to most situations. It is a true game of attrition. When you look around and you see that most of your units are either dead or imprisoned by your enemies, and you find yourself at the end of your rope, you will find out what you are truly made of. Utilizing your prison and torture chamber correctly is gonna make a difference between winning or losing a match. If you play your cards correctly, you can quickly make up for the shortcomings the map makes you deal with. Ultimately, you are in a win-win situation, because if your newly appointed sex slaves rot away in prison, they at least come back as skeletons who join your ranks. Skeletons are fast learners who quickly seek to max out their level, so they're quite useful. If you choose to torture your victims instead, well, then you find yourself in a triple win situation. Your prisoners get tortured to the point that they either join your ranks or die and become ghosts. Of course, ghosts are much weaker than any creature you could get otherwise, so you prefer keeping your prisoners alive. Here is a neat trick. Heat up your prisoners by feeding them live chicken. That way they have a higher probability to survive your torture. Occasionally they will give away information about the enemy keeper, showing you portions of the map. Also, your spiders will occasionally enter the prison cell to fuck with your prisoners for your viewing pleasure. As an added bonus, capture the enemy lord and you'll be able to treat him to one of your 5-star torture facilities. It is really a pleasure hearing him enjoying himself.
Please, you're omnipotent. Have mercy.
One of the creatures you really want to have in your team is the Horned Reaper. Some maps provide you with Horned Reapers and some don't. However, most maps actually make it possible for you in some way or the other to summon a Horned Reaper. Why do you want to have Horned Reapers? Well, one, they look totally badass. Just look at this one here. God damn it. And two, they are the second strongest creature in the game. They will wreck your enemies, rip their heads off and piss in their eye sockets. You do not wanna fuck with the Horned Reaper. They are the perfect leaders to your progressive army. So, are you ready to manage your own dungeon? Are you ready for the pain? Ready to be the bad guy? Then strap on, because you're in for a treat. Dungeon Keeper is definitely not a game for everybody. Heck, I can imagine many people getting frustrated with the combat system or the try and error nature of the game. Heck, I had to relearn most of the tricks that I knew as a kid from online guides. The AI system can be quite frustrating at the beginning, but once you get used to it, it's actually quite nice. Every trick you learn in this game makes a huge difference. As a matter of fact, there are some levels you can't complete without these so-called tricks. As for the scoring of the game, I give the game a 9 out of 10. Why? Because you have to acknowledge greatness when you see it. Apart from that, you get enough extra content from the community. You could play this game for a lifetime and still find new challenging maps to play. There's so much to do in this game, which is why it is still a strong buy for anybody who loves real-time strategy games. One more thing I need to say. The game freezes on occasion, which can become quite frustrating, especially if you have too many units in your field. Yeah, well, anyway, I was Dr. Sledgehammer. I thank you for tuning in, and I will see you guys on the next Sledgehammer review. Bye.